Three, two, one. We should be already live. So welcome everyone in umbraCoffee episode 133. Hi Callum, how are you?
Hey,
how's your week?
we were just saying, really busy. Really busy week for me. And you?
We should sometimes record the pre-go live chats and just release them as a message. Yeah, I just literally said the same, that it was extremely busy week for me. Plus, I got a full tattoo day session, which caused me some pain as well outside of the job and the real life and other life. So yeah, it's another week, another challenges, but we're doing fine, I think. And again, I missed last week's episode of umbraCoffee. I saw it. It was really great, and kudos for handling all of it and highlighting all of the fancy things.
And we managed to keep it under 50 minutes or something, the same number that we've been doing recently.
And Callum in today's title promised that we will do our best to keep it shorter. But we still have a long list of things which happened in the Umbraco community during this week. So let us introduce you to all of that if you want to be up to date as well. Let's start from the product update. That's something what came out recently, and again from Umbraco HQ side, it's highlighting all of the steps being performed at the moment and plans for the nearest future. And we can see some of the information about the future upgrades of Umbraco Uno with custom code on top of the SaaS platform. Umbraco Heartcore upgrades with GraphQL, and we've seen some of the tweets flying around about the new extension for Heartcore. But here I think it's really nice content introducing what GraphQL is in general for people who maybe are not aware for what it can be used, plus some real world examples how it can be used in the project. So as someone who played with the Heartcore and GraphQL before, it's great to see the description of the real world case where and how it can be beneficial for the projects. And
the GraphQL stuff is going to be a game changer for like front end devs and working with this, because the idea is you just get the data out that you want. The thing that I'm most excited about, and it's super geeky, is actually how they've achieved it all. Because from a back end point of view, I think Neil's tweeted the other day that it's not just serving an endpoint. There's like a whole delivery mechanism behind it. So they've mentioned in here that with the GraphQL support, they're going to be introducing a content delivery platform as part of the cloud offering. It's unclear whether that's just on Umbraco Heartcore or if that's going to be like an add-on or something for cloud. But it's based on Cloudflare. So yeah, there's all of that. And I would love to hear a little bit more about like technically how it achieved it to get not an API that's being hashed or an API that's serving content.
Yeah, I think it's a really challenging part of the work for all the cloud CMSs and providers, and because even using other like CMSs where they are serving the APIs counts and number of calls and they're billing based on that, it's a really important to have this content delivery platform being optimized and not causing costs and other implications on the clients and users, definitely. So that's really interesting to see that, and we've seen this content delivery approach on Heartcore before. So I'm as same as you. I'm really interested how it works, and I would really like to go deeper at some point to understand the technical bits of that. But other updates were also interesting. We've seen information about the block editor and its development process. But just before we went live, also Warren shared the pre-recorded demo of how it looks right now. And I mentioned to Callum before going live that I tried to pull down some branches yesterday from the repo and compile it myself to see it in action, because I saw some people are doing it. And thanks, Warren, for saving some time and pain for people who wanted to see the new block editor in the current state in upcoming 8.7, which is due to August with the first release candidate from what we saw in the blog post.
Just spreading rumors here, but if we open that video up and look a bit closer, I believe that is running Umbraco Uno on 8.7. So that's the block editor with the Uno widgets or modules or whatever we want to call them actually running, because you can see Warren's there changing the layout and the colors and everything. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's as we said earlier, it's opening a lot of possibilities for any other editors and any others implementations of custom property editors for content, grid content, and various other contents, because it will be built in. It will be based on the element types in Umbraco, and it will give us massive possibilities to control how it's edited for editors and how it's going to be rendered, because currently this is showing the HTML preview with all the markup and CSS without breaking back office, and it's just awesome to see it in a real time, because editors will definitely love it.
Yeah.
So this is about block editors, but there's also a lot of other upgrades, the next releases for Umbraco Forms, and also the .NET Core work being progressing very, very well. And somewhere here on our list, we also have a really nice information from the team, from the .NET Core team in Umbraco, and Bjarke here wrote a really interesting and massive post about the tests and efforts put on making tests great again in a Umbraco project in relation of upcoming extensions for .NET Core project. And I saw a big excitement in our team because it's as always, we've been referring to Umbraco tests and confidence level in our area when the tests are written and performed really well. So great work here. And I didn't have time yet to dive more into details in the Umbraco source code base, but Bjarke here highlighted the steps done for improving the tests project in Umbraco, why the different types of tests, and all the work being done there to make work of developers who will be not only working on Umbraco code base, but also utilizing Umbraco in the projects better and safer and generally awesome.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say, firstly, I love this kind of technical blog post.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic breath of fresh air. So please, Bjarke and HQT, more of this. It looks great. So this blog goes over unit testing with NUnit and the
auto-fixture.
Integration or acceptance tests with Cypress. Now that Cypress thing is the bit that I think's piqued most people's interest, because, as you said, Marcin, this doesn't have to be just applied to core. In fact, and maybe Bjarke can correct me if I'm wrong, because the back office isn't really changing. These Cypress tests should work on V8, and they're just kind of a step-by-step test suite to go through the back office, which means that we could take that and say as part of one of our client projects and run that against a client's back office to make sure after we've done a deploy, we've not screwed anything up, or after we've added a new feature, that's going to be tested going forward. So we can start actually having like testing on the back office CMS, not just our front end and the stuff that most users see.
Yeah, I up to that. Just I want to share that we are not a front end developers, Callum, yet, but our front end teams and people with who we were working with, they are writing a lot of Cypress tests as well for acceptance tests, and also to prove that our work works basically, and. For me personally, it's good to see the Cypress here as well, because it's exactly the same library which most of our projects is already using, and if we'll just be pointing to the tests within the Umbraco and maybe combining them all together for the projects, as you said, it just proves that we are not screwing anything in between, and also that Umbraco is still working as expected. And ideally, if we'll be building custom property editors, custom tools, custom extensions, sections, and stuff like that, it will be in the one big test suite, possible to be run on continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines, and stuff like that.
I was going to just ask, I saw that at the top of these Cypress tests, there's an import of Umbraco Cypress tests, I think. Is that on NPM or something? So like I'm not, as we said, I'm not a front end dev. I don't like JavaScript, but actually that looks pretty clean and easy to follow.
Yes.
So I would love to give it a go. Maybe Bjarke or Warren watching, let us know if that's on NPM or something, so we can have a play.
Yeah, test. My front-end skills are limiting to typing what I see. Yes, on NPM.
It's on NPM. Awesome.
Answers here.
That's my
ruined. Up to testing, I found a really nice article this week, and with controversial title, with saying that unit testing is overrated. But I highly recommend everyone to read this, because it's covering a lot of interesting angles on testing in general. But going straight to the summary, which is basically summing it all up, it's like the approaches really matters. It's not like we are just testing classes. We are doing tests because we need to, or we must to, or to increase the test coverage because our metrics needs to match some expectations. It's like tests are really helpful when they are think ahead. And that's really relates to the article which Bjarke wrote, that if you understand for what you are writing tests and for what are you creating the test classes or cases, it helps you understand your software and helps everyone else to extend this software. And those two articles are from my perspective, are must reads this week when it comes to developers and backend developers who are going to extend.
This is definitely like a misconception of, we must have a test on everything, and the burden that can actually add to a project, an unnecessary burden, an unnecessary maintenance burden, perhaps testing stuff that maybe is already tested in third-party libraries or whatever. It's mistakes that people see, we see time and time again. And in fact, some of the best projects I've worked on are the ones where you've got more granular tests. I quite like seeing like a folder in code where there's then my code, but a folder within it that says tests. And it's just 2 or 3 tests that relate to that one bit of functionality. And it's trying to dilute your thinking down to a more macro level, like, what am I trying to test, rather than trying to test your whole system.
Yeah. Being pragmatic here is really important, because it's not. I saw some requirements sometimes, just to finish this topic, that we need to unit test everything, basically all the tests, all the covers, all the classes. When in the real life, the functionality matters the most, and if we will be sure that the functionality doesn't break, it's sometimes enough, and it's really important to say that enough is enough sometimes, and not go deeper when it's not needed. But coming back to Umbraco, we also saw from Bjarke that he has a really nice Photoshop skills. But no, I think it's not a Photoshop, and I believe that Umbraco backoffice is running on Linux server, which means that the .NET Core team is getting closer and closer to release the version which is independent from the .NET in the back office area, .NET framework at least, which is great.
This is part of their milestones, isn't it, to get the back office running? But so I don't think the front end really does anything right now. But you can run a console in the back office, and supposedly that runs on Linux. I'm interested because I thought this may have just been my misinterpretation, but I thought that the .NET Core project was purely scoped to being running on .NET Core on Windows. There wasn't going to be any cross-platform stuff because of the dependencies. And I know that the team were aware of it, so making considerations like, okay, that library is tied to a load of stuff in Windows. We're not going to be able to have a cross-platform version, but creating abstractions so that it could be done later. But that's really interesting seeing the back office running. I wonder if it's something that's going to be officially supported, or if it's just a bit of an experiment.
Yeah, we will see, and it's great to see, because I think when we are rewriting code or adapting to the new platforms, it's great to see that, okay, this is possible. So go deeper, and if it's possible, why not to do that, right? And it's right now, I think that the project is getting to the point where abstraction is helping to really think about things like that, and we can just observe and help and keep fingers crossed, and high five everyone who is working on the .NET Core project, because it's making all of us happy and happier to see that the new technologies are coming to our lives. That's great. So that's from the product update, but also we had a Skrift release this week with 2 Great articles. I don't know, Callum, did you read them all?
I'll be honest, I've skimmed over the article by Paul Nima, but I did read the one by Paul.
Yeah.
Because it's Paul's is marketing and Martech focused, and it's something I really know much about. So actually, it was really interesting to see what the landscape's like, what the tools are that are available.
Yeah, I think I wanted to also highlight this article because I'm really deep into the marketing stuff and selling process of various products and businesses, and really it's great to see how Umbraco extended the palette of possibilities when it comes to doing things which are satisfying for marketers and marketing people inside of the Umbraco generally. All the perplex works being done, all the other personalization engines and tools with the automation and stuff like that, analytics are awesome, and Paul really well highlighted it all, and everyone who wants to just prepare for some pitches or discussions, how Umbraco can help in the marketing area by default or by using the packages listed here. Great article, and big high five for Paul for grabbing it all together. And Purnima's article, I just read it today. And to be honest, again, big monster, big article, a lot of areas in the simple topic in theory, which is components and composers, which are not that new for V8 Umbraco developers, but Purnima really greatly highlighted all of the possible use cases, not even all of them, but some of the most common use cases where components and can help, and how can we use them to make our work better with Umbraco V8. Again, great examples, a lot of examples, real world examples. So go and read it if you didn't yet. That's Skrift. And Skrift is still looking for new authors. So we can mention it again to help Skrift team produce new content of this quality in the next upcoming releases. Other releases, Iglo theme, which is integrated as a part of Umbraco Uno, got a new release. It's 2.3.
Looks like it's a lot of stuff kind of being fed back into the product from Uno. There was a bunch of feedback I know about the changes to properties and whatever, but also the color, the theme, I don't know what you call it, the widget that kind of slides in when you preview so you can change colors and stuff, was not in Igloo, but was built for this, and it seems that's now in Igloo as well, which is cool, or something similar at least.
Yep, that's the one. And the second, it's not a new release, but the milestone of UEOmatic from team, which reached 50,000 downloads, and again, it just proves how people want to extend Umbraco in the common ways. And again, UEOmatic and Fluidity are two packages of choice to do that in the shorter steps than writing the whole code by ourselves. And 50,000 downloads is a lot, and only NuGet, right? So congrats on reaching this milestone, and that's amazing to see that. Callum, meetups. You've gathered some of the meetups updates.
Yesterday we had our first ever virtual London open space. So the idea of this,
how was it?
It was good. Like at Code Garden, where you kind of sit down and you discuss some topics. We had people propose some ahead of time. We discussed .NET Core and what that all means for us as Umbraco developers that have never really done .NET Core. There was concerns raised about kind of what the migration path is going to be. Am I going to have to do training? All of that sort of stuff. There was discussions about packages and creating packages. There was some chats about cookies and how you manage those on large sites for GDPR and all that sort of stuff. Whole bunch of topics, and there was notes written from all of it, so that will all be shared afterwards for people that want to read along. It's quite good. We had about 20 people join.
Awesome. I must admit that I totally suck in attending events due to this Corona situation. I haven't attended any virtual meetups so far. I need to fix myself, and I realized that even today, because another meetup which happened yesterday was the CMS panel, which Anthony Dang introduced with the idea of talking about CMS developers versus real developers, and I really wanted to attend that. I don't know why I missed it, but it's again interesting topic, and I'm really interested how it went, because we are in Umbraco community, we are CMS developers. This is the first time when I heard this name, but yeah, we are sometimes pushed back in the comparison with .NET developers in general, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there was a really interesting discussion happening on Twitter, and I think I unfortunately couldn't join yesterday because it was clashing. But just wider around Anthony saying, "Oh, being pushed back for a role because you're a CMS developer," meaning which is a really interesting concept. The idea that you're not as good as developer because you work with the CMS, which seems insane. Given that, as everyone was saying in the comments, it's a like a tool to just give you a leapfrog up to doing. Don't bother with the mundane database stuff. It just happens.
It's like saying that you are finding shortcuts and you are worse than someone else who doesn't. And I always have the same challenge. Yeah,
you must be writing your own admin interface every single time.
Yeah,
different new framework. You must write the database directly. You must manage all your cache, everything yourself. You're a real 10x developer if you can do all of that. You're not a developer.
Yeah, I think we all have these challenges, those old battles. And then when I visit the .NET groups, meetups and stuff like that, I always convince people that it's not like that you are, installing CMS and you are done because you're installing plugins, themes, and you're, click developer. It's not like that, right? And I think it's worth to mention that the CMSs are not only WordPress world, and WordPress can be also extended with the PHP languages and built and extended with a lot of custom build and code. So yeah, it's great that those topics are taken and addressed, but I'm just afraid that it won't reach the people who are needed to be convinced, right? So we can talk about it. That's amazing, but the other side or the business side should listen and understand that there are awesome possibilities to build great sites using CMSs, different CMSs, and it's not like CMS is just the limit or the end of the implementation.
I think there is another side to this though, which is maybe the counter argument, which is kind of an interesting idea. People thinking that CMS developers are not real programmers, but I guess if you compare the kind of contexts that CMS developers work in and say someone working for a financial company works in, sure, you're doing different types of programming. So whilst the end deliverable for the kind of things that day-to-day most CMS developers would do are probably a little bit mundane. It's a web page. That's not to say there's not some amazing stuff going on behind the scenes. Whereas for someone that's doing, financial trading systems, they probably seem a bit more serious. And I think there's a good thing for both. There's a place for both of those things. CMS developers should get experience with building a system, and equally, I've seen systems developers try and do anything for the web, and it's an absolute nightmare. So, this conversation's a good opener to try and bring those two groups together.
Yeah, but what I always tried to do with my talks was to introduce some kind of outside of the CMS world, because systems, that's the world which you've used, is really interesting, because we need to think about systems. CMS is just a puzzle sometimes in the big solution, and we need to know where this puzzle and when this puzzle can be used and stuff like that. That's enough, and sometimes it's not enough. But yeah, that's a really great topic. We need to address it one day, and maybe introduce some .NET developers who are not aware of Umbraco and show them how it can be used, and the other side maybe. Let's do it at some point. But two other meetups which are still going to happen is the meetup on July 16th in Manchester, and it's focused around integrating and extending Umbraco with some content apps and also marketing tools, if I'm correct. It was integration with various campaign marketing tools and extending CMS core elements. So it's a really interesting topic. Anyone can join on Thursday 16th on 7 p.m. And second one is in Edinburgh. not in Edinburgh, but Edinburgh virtual meetup again. And the agenda is generally about the Umbraco News Plus. Phil will demo Yuzu and Vendor. We saw Phil demoing Yuzu a couple weeks ago in umbraCoffee. So here it's more tailored demo with integrating Yuzu and Vendor. Still open for attendees.
Yeah.
And other news, other stuff on our list, starting from July U profile, which is Lee Gallagher.
Lee Gallagher.
10x, 10x MVP. I've replied to Lee's the message about it as Lee was one of my initial idols and heroes in Umbraco community when I started doing Umbraco development. So it's just a proof of his amazing involvement in the whole community, and I saw a lot of great tweets and relations to Lee's participation in the community. And here is his U profile with a lot of information, again answers for some questions about the story behind his contribution, the beginnings, the motivation and career paths crossing with Umbraco and all of his work. And yeah, it's such an amazing to see 10 MVP titles. Damn, that's insane. Yeah, so great. If you want to learn more about Lee's involvement in the community, follow him on all the socials and the profiles, and read the U profile on umbraco.com, which we'll linking down below the video. Another MVP shared another great story about his contribution in the Umbraco community. It's Nick and his story about Umbraco and how it all began, how it all evolved to the MVP title. Great article and summary of the contributions from Nick on the SpinDocs blog. We will also link it up. And documentation and Umbraco side, that's a massive topic.
This one was really interesting. So it's about how can we make the docs better for the RTE, because they've got that custom config thing and it's a little bit messy and people sometimes modify it, but should there be some more sensible defaults if everyone's doing the same thing? So call to action, if you haven't already engaged, go and reply to that tweet with anything you already customized the TinyMCE config with. But there's some great points in here, like I think by default it strips out the I tag, which is not helpful if you're doing anything with font awesome. There's I know I've had issues before. It strips out certain bits of markup when people want to kind of paste in something for formatting or whatever.
Yeah. And I must admit that I've learned something from the extension, because I didn't know that we can order and group things like that in the formats. So yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, in submenus. I didn't know that, and I must admit that. But there is also a lot of interesting information coming from people who are using more extended RTE configurations, and it's still a thing. I don't know if we can get rid of RTE in the manner of the block editors and all the rest of the things, but it's great to see what's possible and how also the inline what you see is what you get editors are evolving, and how we can also extend the behaviors in Umbraco by extending this configuration. So help if you are using more crazy implementations of RTE, and I must admit I saw crazy implementations of RTEs with some custom plugins for TinyMCE. So share your experiences and help us all to understand it more in details. Other tools, other things, performance, great topic which also interests me a lot, and we're all crazy about performance here. And great article about performance monitoring, in this case, how we can, what tools and what approaches we can take to measure and monitor our performance of applications, starting from Lighthouse and page speed insights. Great tool, which is K6, previously known as Load Impact, and other tools helping to monitor the application performance. Great article by Lars on umbraco.com blog.
It's not by Lars. It's by Alex Myers from Carbon 6, but it's
Lars plus yeah.
Lars.
I thought that Lars was from Carbon 6, but yeah, here is the real author. Sorry for confusion. Alex Myers, Carbon 6, great article about performance here. Really like it. And articles from on other blogs. Shannon wrote about filtering fields in Examine. As always, Shannon's blogs are just the books and the tutorials how to set it up step by step. So if anyone struggles with filtering fields dynamically in Examine, this is how to do it step by step. And not that technical blog post, but something more about communities. And how to so 10 steps to online community success on umbraco.com blog. Again, really helpful set of tips for everyone who wants to run or start or participate even in the communities and take much more output from it than just participation. Really great set of tips. And speaking about community, Callum, a sad news which you've placed on the agenda today. I don't know if we should mention that.
I mean, this is going to be like purely rumor mill inducing now. But so the venue that Code Garden is hosted in has gone bankrupt, which means I don't know what it means. Code Garden's been there for the past 4 years, I think, and it's been a fantastic venue. It's allowed them to grow, and I'm not sure if there is a similar size venue in Unza. So let's just hope that someone else comes in and reboots the venue. I guess, coronavirus has kind of killed the events industry as a whole. So places like this must be struggling. But I don't know what that means for Code Garden.
But it's a nostalgic message, and I think everyone who attended Code Garden in this area and in this venue reminded very well. And it's really weird to imagine a Code Garden in any other places right now. Exactly. So we will see. We'll see. Sad news, but that's the problem thing which we'll be observing more and more when it comes to event industry and stuff like that. It's challenging times. Soren said that it's owned by the same company that owns the HQ building.
To avoid confusion, so the people that own the building are not the people that run the event space. So it's the event space that's gone bankrupt. It's not the owner of the building. HQ is going to be kicked out on the street. But I like Carl's suggestion here of HQ to buy it, because imagine they're in need of some extra office space, aren't they? How about this huge?
Ooh. Yeah, that might be interesting. All the meetups there and stuff like that. That's good, but it's a big space. it's probably hard to manage and maintain. Callum, but three last things which you wanted to highlight as other things, and really interesting stuff about the GitHub platform. GitHub introduced the availability report.
I like it. So I mean, let's be honest. We all know that GitHub's been a bit unstable recently. Yep. And I think let's say that's because they're busy trying to migrate it to onto Microsoft's tech stack and all that stuff. But they've released this availability report. So rather than doing these post-mortem blog posts like we kind of do, which are a bit depressing, they are instead going to do a nice overview each month of, here's the instance we had, here's why they happened, here's what we're going to do to solve them. And it's in a kind of a bid to put to make GitHub more stable over the next 6 months or so. And I'm sure we'll start seeing the results.
Yeah, and it just proves that every software fails sometimes, and it's just nice point for us who are usually worried when something doesn't work, and that it's going to be solved, and we will learn why it was like that. It's always because of something, and all the incidents has some summaries here, short summaries and long summaries on the GitHub incidents pages. Really, really nice idea.
Yeah,
and GitHub profile. Also received a new update, and Callum, I must admit that
GitHub I can't remember what the event was called, the virtual GitHub event, Satellite, where you can, if you create a Git repo on GitHub with as your username, then it's a few GitHub settings. So they're going to be using this GitHub repo for code spaces settings and other stuff as it evolves. So this is going to kind of be your profile settings, and you can add a README there, and the README pulls through to your profile page. So that's kind of cool. Everyone's been playing with that this week.
Yeah, I saw that, and you have right now a solid business proof representation of your profile. It's almost same as your LinkedIn profile right now, right?
Yeah.
but I know that a lot of people are using GitHub as a kind of CVs, right, or the representation profiles. And right now we can do all the various things here to highlight what we are doing, what is our, I don't know, description or things like that. Great, I think a really interesting upgrade and space for various things. And you've just discovered the possibilities to also recrawl people going to your profile, which is cool. And yeah, that's a wrap. That's all for this week. So a lot of interesting and less interesting or more sad news highlighted. Anything else to add, Callum? Do you think we've missed something?
That's it.
Yeah, I think I see that community is suggesting a lot of great ideas for maintaining the venue for the Code Garden. Data center, yeah, maybe Microsoft data center. Or share your ideas. Share your ideas for maintaining this venue. Maybe the crowdfunding campaign to buy out the company to organize these events. So yeah, that's all. We will, of course, as usual, update the links underneath the video on YouTube. Feel free to share your updates and everything what's happening on your side to highlight it on the next umbraCoffee episodes. And we will see each other as usual on the next Friday. Have a great weekend all, and thanks.